alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Hello and welcome to Alive After Reading. I'm Tim Niederreiter, and with me today is a guest, an author, a podcaster, as we all love, Tann. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Tim. It's great talking to you again, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, we met on the 10-minute drill over on the
Go Indie Now.
Joe Indie Now. Joe Compton. Yeah, Joe Compton's network. Sorry, we were talking over each other, but that's fine. We're saying the same stuff. And that's a great podcast, a great show. Really, I'm not sure if it's a podcast. It's on YouTube. We go check that out when you're done.
It's definitely worth a listen to. Joe does an amazing job, and he has top-notch quality guests, obviously, because we were both on there.
Yes, the quality is real. Yeah,
absolutely.
So Bryan, tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and the books you got out and your podcast and stuff.
All right. Well, where to begin? I'm Bryan Tann. I was born and raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where I still currently live. I am the author of 5 novels. Unfortunately, I guess I can't say unfortunately. If you go to look me up on Amazon, only one of my books is going to be available at the time you're listening to this, because I've recently signed with Random Evolved Media, so all of my books are getting the re-release treatment. My first novel with Random Evolved Media will actually be my sci-fi action novel, Invincible Heart, which is a spin-off to Kendra Souter's Permutation Archives series. And Invincible Heart is the story of John Baker, who was created by the government to capture or kill a woman by the name of Mila Hunter in the name of his government. Unfortunately for the president, his heart has other plans. So that book is available on ebook. It actually released January 28th, and the print edition is going to be coming out February 18th. And you can go to randomevolvedmedia.com to either purchase or pre-order. If you pre-order the print copy of the book from the Random Evolved Media store, you will get your print copy signed by myself and Ms. Kendra Souter. So woohoo to that.
Yeah, badass.
Yeah, and I've also written a vampire novel, which I would actually call it sort of African-American urban fantasy. The title of that book is The Enforcer, and that tells the story of vampire enforcer Bryce Creed, who is he's actually takes up the role of protector of a mistress vampire who has a paramilitary sect looking to kill her. He's also on his own quest. He's seeking redemption for his evil acts that he's committed over the last 300 years. That book will be releasing in either September or October of this year. We haven't gotten a solid release date on that as of yet.
Well, cool. Sounds good.
Yeah. All of my books have, at least to date, have black male protagonists, because being a black male, that's what I write about. And I like to write a little bit about everything. Vampires, science fiction, erotic thrillers, totally fucked up horror stuff that I can think of to try to make people as uncomfortable as humanly possible, because, hey, isn't it really, really fun when you read something that makes you just cringe? I know it is for me.
It can be. There's some kinds of cringe that I'm not as happy about, but horror cringe is usually okay with me.
Yeah, horror cringe rules. Other cringes, like when I watch SVU, I'm just like, ugh, what a monster.
I was thinking like Seinfeld, like the cringe with George Costanza.
That works.
That character, that's a little too close to home for me, you know?
Fair enough. Oh, George.
Yeah, jeez. Anyway, so you also have a podcast, right? It's
actually I have two. I have two podcasts, actually. Yeah. My one podcast I do with good friend of mine, Shane Wilson. It's the Plotaholics podcast, and Shane and I do film review. And we basically dissect film and other forms of pop culture, and we sort of give our own idea on things as writers on certain things. And, it tends to go in very, very interesting and fun directions. And on our website, plotaholics.com, you can listen to our podcast. You can also listen to our podcast on anywhere where you get your podcasts. We're on Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon, not Amazon, what do I Apple and Google. So Google Music, Apple Music. So yeah, you can check us out on there. And I also do the Writers Uncensored podcast with my writing partner, Kendra Souter. And we sort of discuss things, again, from a writer's perspective, but we also discuss things, in the writing world. We've had shows where we've discussed autism in film and in books. We've discussed racism in film and in books. We've discussed religion in film and books. And we even discussed how insulting it is to ask authors for free books. That was actually Kendra's husband, Ed, sat in for her in that episode because Kendra was feeling under the weather. And we talked about how, it's just so insulting and disrespectful. And it's really, if you're a dude, it's kicking the balls rude to ask an author just to give you something for free because you know them. It's right. Like, well, here's an idea. Why don't you go to your 9-to-5 job and do it for free?
Yeah, geez, who would do that? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So if you wouldn't do your 40-hour a week job for free, don't ask a writer to give you something for free. It just makes you look like an asshole. And
right.
Will probably get you put into a book to be killed.
Or taken out of a book to be killed, potentially.
Yeah.
If that's what you wanted.
Yeah, exactly. Just karma will come back to you in very, very interesting ways. You might get a paper cut like right between your fingers, or oof. You might trip and fall and skin your knee, and you'll have that Peter Griffin moment. You never know what could happen, and all because you had to be a dickhead and ask for a free book. Yeah,
karma is payback. It's a bitch.
Oh yeah, she hits you hard. Karma is like the tax collector of life.
No kidding. So about Invincible Heart, though, if you don't mind me asking.
Oh, absolutely.
You say was this one of your earlier books that you finished, or was it is how late? What kind of chronology does this fall into as far as your process writing it?
Invincible Heart is technically it's my second. No, not my second. It's technically my third completed novel. I think I want to say third.
Okay.
Is it my third? Let me see.
Well, don't worry too much about it.
Yeah, it's technically my third finished book. The Enforcer is my first novel that I ever finished. I have like a graveyard. I had a graveyard of unfinished novels. I still have it, but my graveyard was a lot bigger. And then I got rid of floppy disks. So all of those unwritten books, I don't know where the hell they are now. They're just gone. So The Enforcer, I first wrote that. I started writing that back in 2006, finished it in 2009. Tried self-publishing because I thought I had the next best American novel. Turns out I didn't. But no, Invincible Heart was actually my first book that actually got me with a publisher, because I had met Kendra Souter because I recorded an audiobook for TJ Weeks, horror writer TJ Weeks. He and I, took a liking to each other, became very, very friendly. And he ended up inviting me to write a short story in an anthology series that he was writing, that he was in charge of. And I met Kendra Souter in the process of doing that. And we would talk here and there, but you know how when you meet people, you become friends with people on Facebook. Sometimes you talk to them, sometimes you don't.
Yeah. And
we would talk, but we wouldn't talk a lot. It was more that passing, hey, how's it going? Maybe I'll like or comment on something, but it was never anything. Well, I happened to buy a copy of the first book in her Permutation Archive series, The Harvested, and I fell in love with the book. Now, I told you off air, and I've said it tons of times when I talk about what I read. I hate first person narrative books. I really do. I've always hated first person narrative books. But her book, The Permutation Archives, The Harvested really resonated with me because I saw one of the reviews for it and it said it was like a Hunger Games meets the X-Men. And I love the idea of that dystopian future, even though I hated the Hunger Games. I love dystopian future. I love dystopian novels. And I loved the story. And I had this 3-chapter work that I'd started on. And I based it off of a Shadowrun character that I used to play. And I had no clue what I was doing with it. And then I'm reading her book. And then somehow, some way, I just got this idea. Ideas just come to me whenever I'm just walking or just doing something just arbitrary. So I get this idea in my head and I message her on Facebook and I said, hey, can I have 5 minutes of your time? And this was in July of 2016, I want to say. It was in the middle of the summer and it gets really hot and humid in Pittsburgh in the summer. And I'm walking to work because I work like 2 miles away from my house, from where I was living at the time. And I said, hey, can I talk to you on the phone for like 5 minutes? I want to pitch an idea to you. And she says, okay, I'm on my lunch break. What do you want to talk about? I said, I would love to write a spinoff to The Harvested. And she's like, okay, dude that I don't know. What the hell are you talking about? So I gave her my idea. And I said, so this is my character. This is what character would be involved in, blah, 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 blah. And she goes from that skeptical, who the hell are you, to, you have to write this book now. Those were literally her words. You have to write this now. So I said, all right, cool. So I got home from work that night and I just started writing, man, like writing and just going nuts. And by the middle of August, I think I had 30 days. I had the rough draft of Invincible Heart done.
Wow. Pretty fast. Yeah.
It's not the fastest I've ever written, but this is the fastest I've ever written without substances helping me. And I don't mean cocaine. I mean, I went to a coffee shop and I had a night of drinking cafe mochas with 10 shots of espresso each.
Yikes.
I think I had 4 of these horrible for your stomach drinks. And I wrote an entire book in a weekend.
Yikes. Wow. How long is that book? I'm just out of curiosity.
I don't remember.
You don't remember, but like 60,000 words, 50,000 at least, something like that. It's still a shitload of words.
It's between 60,000 and 85,000 words.
Well, that's really, I was assuming shorter, but because a weekend, that's barely enough time to even do that. But I guess you don't sleep.
I did not sleep. All I did was sit and I wrote and I wrote and I wrote and I wrote, and then I crashed for 2 days.
Well, that sounds like a good deal to me. I don't know. You have a whole book at the end, a whole rough draft at the end of a weekend, and it's like, oh yeah, I just have to take. It's like 4 days of work basically. You just crash for 2 of them.
Right. Exactly. And then I came back and was like, this is too short, and I tried to add some. And I actually added some stuff to it, and I think that's how it ended up becoming up to the 80,000. But I think when I first finished it, it was like 78,000 words, and then I added like another 2,500 words or something.
Okay. Yeah, that actually kind of reminds me of not to go off on a tangent here, but that's kind of the name of the game. But it reminds me of the book I'm actually working on right now, which I should knock on wood should be releasing in February because I can indie publish it. But I wrote the first draft. I had the first most I wrote to the end of the book. But it was like 85,000. But it's an epic fantasy. So I'm like, okay, this book needs to be like over 120,000. Mm-hmm. And I'm still adding words to it. It's kind of crazy. But it's still, I mean, partially because I'm going kind of slow on the editing part. It's anyway, enough about that. I think it's really fascinating. The fast writing is really like, binge writing, I guess, is something that really fascinates me. Not just fast writing, but, get the whole thing done in a week or whatever. Even a month. It's crazy. It's such a good feeling when you're doing it, though, I think.
Yeah, it is. And then when you finish it, it's like, wow, how the hell did I do that?
Bit of a crash, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, why do I do this to myself? It's like you go to the gym and you bust your ass and you're feeling so good in the middle of it, and then the next day your whole body hurts, and it's like, why?
I can't even stand up. Arg. Yeah.
I can't feel anything from the hair down.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, I've been known to overdo it at times, but I mean, it's like ever since I started dictating fiction, which is just last summer, I don't think I've ever done a day more than 15,000 words still, which is kind of crazy because only because I do about 6,000 or 7,000 words every hour.
Right.
And I just don't ever do more than like 12 for some reason in a day. It's still a lot, but like I could put in, I put in another hour, I'd end up at least 20. It'd be great. It'd be like that. Yeah.
See, I've been thinking about doing it. I've been thinking about, putting my pennies together and, getting, dictation software, because I realize, maybe trying to type things out isn't working for me. Maybe I should just talk it out, because as you're talking, it allows your brain to do more. So, maybe I'll start doing that. Maybe I'll start trying to do that.
Go on. Sorry.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, maybe I'll talk to my boss about it. Maybe I'll talk to the boss. I'll talk to my fiance, Sharon. Maybe she'll let me.
Yeah. So actually, I just want to say one quick about dictation, because and this might actually be interesting to some listeners if you're writers out there who are considering getting to do it themselves. Since I started dictating, I used to type like 30 words a minute. That was a pretty good minute for me. But I dictate roughly 100 words a minute minimum.
Wow.
When I'm doing well. I mean, I guess 85 is really the minimum. But if I'm sitting in a chair, like a comfortable chair, and I just have the voice recorder and I'm not distracted, I do 120 to 140 words a minute. And so that's a pretty insane amount of words. And obviously 140 words in a minute is sustained over an hour or half an hour is a ton of words.
Yeah.
And the key thing, though, is for me, I discovery write, so it's kind of tricky because if I run out of things to say, if I run out of little like twists to put into the story, that's where I start having problems.
Right.
So where I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to say, and it just becomes jibber jabber, and then there's no point to it anymore.
Yeah. Then you hear Mr. T, quit your jibber jabber, fool.
But no, yeah, exactly. But I was going to say that I have a bunch of friends in my writing group who recently started dictating too. I have a few others. And one of them, I mean, like for a person who doesn't have a full-time writing job like I do, it's even better, I think, because I mean, like I have a hard time putting in more than 2 hours, but if you only put in 1 hour a day and you were doing even half what I do, that's a good bit more, right? If you're doing 3,500 words in a day, that's a chunk. That's a healthy amount of words. And
absolutely,
like for a normal person, a normal writer, that's plenty. And I would encourage people to try it out if they have the funds, because it's absolutely well worth it.
I would say so. Yeah. Absolutely. You know what? I'm seriously considering, taking that plunge, trying to take that step, or at least because I've noticed on the latest version of Microsoft Office, it seems like it has like a dictation function. So maybe I'll even see if that'll work for me. If it'll work for my purposes.
Oh, there's a lot of dictation in there, yeah. And if you're using Microsoft Word to write anyway,
which I do,
yeah, then maybe that's the best way to go. Though personally, I find it difficult to actually dictate into a computer and not get distracted by seeing the words appear. But you can get around that pretty easily if you just turn the screen off. If you have a monitor, you can turn off. Then you wouldn't have to invest in anything more expensive than Microsoft Office. Anyway.
It doesn't take much for me to be it doesn't take much for me to be distracted, honestly. I'm Doug from Up. I really am. And I'm not ashamed to admit it. I just I'll just be like la 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 la. Ooh, something.
Anything. Yeah. Change the subject.
There's a something there, and it is really cool. Hey, there's a something else.
Oh yeah, I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was a teenager. Or actually before I was a teenager. I think you mentioned. Did you mention you had it as well?
Yeah, I have. I do have ADHD as well.
Yeah, I mean, no stigma here, obviously. I think, but it does provide an additional challenge to writing because writing is a low stimulus activity generally. I think maybe that's one of the reasons I do better dictating, though, because I can hear something. Like I hear my own voice, and that actually provides an additional stimulus. I'm just not just looking at the page.
And that makes a ton of sense, because I know for me personally, I need to have something that's just gonna keep my mind stimulated. Like I can't do I can't just play a video game. I have to have the sound all the way down, but I have to have my headphones on, and I have to have a show or a movie on my laptop. Or if I'm watching a show or a movie on the TV, I have to be playing a game on my laptop. I can't just do one thing. I have to be multitasking. Otherwise, I can't concentrate.
Oh, boy. Yeah, it sounds like you got a little more intense than I do. But multitasking is a challenge for me. But it's all because I feel like I just don't get anything done when I'm multitasking.
Right.
But it's hard for me to stay on one task. So I just switch all the time.
Yeah, I have to do two things at once. Otherwise, I'm just not getting anything done. And then I'm miserable. I'm irritable. Well, more irritable than usual because I am a cranky son of a bitch. And and yeah, so I have to be doing more than one thing at a time. I have to. I have to. Otherwise, nothing is ever going to get done.
Well, yeah, I can. Yeah, everyone has their own process and their own way of handling things. But I was going to ask also, because we are getting a little later in the show, and I normally this is the part where I ask what people have been reading lately, but I also kind of want to expand it because you do a movie review podcast,
right? So
I'll expand it. So what kind of stuff have you been watching lately? It could be TV, movies, or listening to, because you said you also do audiobooks off air, I think.
Yeah, yeah. On my road trips this weekend, I've been listening to Ready Player One, the audiobook version read by the great Will Wheaton. And once again, I say how much I hate first-person narrative, but I love Ready Player One. I've also been binging Law and Order SVU, and I've been watching, I always watch whatever, I try to watch whatever, we're reviewing for the Plotaholics. The last two movies, I haven't had the time, just due to work and other things in life, to watch the films. However, I've seen these movies so much in my life, and once I watch a movie, I tend to remember it. So if I watch it more, I remember everything. Like, if you just gave me like a character from The Breakfast Club, I can probably just go through them line for line for line. So yeah, I tend to watch either whatever I'm reviewing, or I've started to rewatch The Joker. I'm planning on watching the John Wick series at some point, rewatching that and watching John Wick 3 again. I watch a little bit of everything, and I listen to a little bit of everything.
Well, cool. I see. I'm still media challenged. I think that's part of my trouble that I've been having with writing lately. Not enough input, right?
Okay.
So because I think the last TV show I completed the season of was The Witcher on Netflix.
Witcher is awesome.
Yeah,
The Witcher is so awesome. I loved it.
Yeah.
The only thing I didn't like was the fact that the timeline, they were not very clear that the timeline was non-linear. I didn't like.
I thought it was linear, except for the parts with Siri. But anyway,
what's weird though is that Siri stuff happens. It's supposed to be happening real time, but everything with Yennefer and Geralt, it's all past. And then we start to come to a point, and then it's like, hey, didn't this chick die like the first episode?
Right,
why is she back? And it's like, what the hell is? It's like, oh, that's what's happening.
I thought it was interesting that because they started all the storylines at basically at different time periods. Yeah, but then they all basically flow linearly. It's just one of them's way ahead of the other two for most of it. And
you know what? And it was really, really fun. And I love the character. I think Yennefer had some of the best character development in the whole series. Geralt was Geralt. Yeah. But Yennefer, we really got to see a lot of Yennefer. And actually, I wrote a review on The Witcher for Plotaholics.com, and I gave The Witcher a pretty rave review. I wasn't that big of a fan of how they told the story, but the story was so good, and I can't wait for the next season.
Yeah, that's a good point. I just it's a good way to think about it too, because the way they tell the story, it's because I think it's all based off the first Witcher book, which was a book of short stories.
Right.
So it's a little tricky. You're like, well, how are we going to do this? Because those are all, yeah.
But I definitely
or chronologically the first Witcher book, I think.
Yeah, and actually, I do intend on reading, starting to get into the Witcher books as well. I definitely really, really want to. And big shout out to Henry Cavill, man. That guy is amazing. Like, being Superman does not show you just how great of an actor he is.
Yeah, he did not have much to work with there. Compared to even in like Mission Impossible Fallout, it was pretty fun.
I heard it was really good.
He was really good in that one too. I thought his character was really cool.
I have not watched a Mission Impossible film since the first one.
Oh, fair enough. That was probably the next best one that I've seen. I think I've only missed 2 of them, but
I'll have to check it out then. I'll have to check it out because I don't hate Tom Cruise. It's just that anytime I see Tom Cruise on screen, I remember him jumping on Oprah's couch. So it's hard for me to take him serious. I mean, I've been in love too, but I ain't been jumping on a couch in love. Maybe I'm just doing it wrong.
Yeah, and especially not on TV, a huge TV show. Yeah,
yeah. On the couch. It's like, come on, dude, act like you've been here before. Seriously.
Yeah, and he almost literally had been, I'm sure, by that point. But whatever.
Oh, absolutely.
So anyway, we were wrapping up here. Enough about Tom Cruise, but yeah. So where can people find your stuff, and what should people be looking for in the future?
You can find me at bryantann.com when I do update my webpage. You can also find me at either author Bryan Tann or Bryan Tann author on social media platforms. I'm the only Bryan Tann there is that spells his name with a Y and 2 N's. And that's BRYANTANN. Or you can find me at plotaholics.com, at plotaholics on any of your social media. Or Writers Uncensored on Facebook. On Twitter, Writers Uncensored is WU Whiskey Umbrella, don't be a douche.
Oh, boy. So, yeah, thanks for being on the show, Bryan. It's been a lot of fun.
Oh, thanks for having me. I really appreciate you, reaching out. And yeah, this was definitely a lot of fun. And we're gonna have to make this, regular discussion thing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'd be happy to have you back whenever. Yeah, just let me know when you have new books coming out, and I will, or I may see it anyway. Anyway, either way, we'll do this again. That's for sure. So, as for this podcast, you can find us at mentalcellarpublications.com. You can access the feeds at Libsyn or mentalcellarpublication.com. And of course, you can find my books at amazon.com. Demon Scroll is out. Shadow Prince, the sequel, should be out in February. Fingers crossed that I'm able to buckle down and do that. So, yeah, thanks for listening, everybody. Talk to you next week.
That tears it.